Attorney General, or any other branch of the Department of Justice, or any other part of our federal government to decide what is and is not a cult. And we'll get back into the federal government and churches and enforcement issues against churches, because there are some issues about Quakers. Quakers are nonviolent in the extreme, yet they too are considered potential terrorists. Now, this bailout bill has a lot of very disturbing provisions. It allows the Secretary of the Treasury to designate foreign governments as agents of the Treasury for the purpose of seizing defaulted property and taking possession. You know, if you foreclose on your home, typically, sheriff comes out and, you're being evicted. This property now belongs to the bank. Except all the banks are being bought up by the federal government. And the federal government is saying, well, not all these assets are owned by the United States government. A lot of them are owned by foreign governments, like China. And China has a special police force now called the PAP, which would be, under this bailout bill, authorized to come into the United States and act as an authorized enforcement agency to seize what belongs to the government of China. So, now, everybody knows that there's going to be no shortage of Americans who are going to stand against this. And that's one of the reasons why we see more and more reliance on the Patriot Act, Patriot 2, Domestic Security Enhancement Act of 2003, also known as Patriot 3, and then the so-called Patriot 4, which is the Domestic Extremism Act. Basically, if you badmouth the federal government, then you are a terrorist. And there have been some minor provisions in previous anti-terrorism laws that kind of paved the way for this, but basically it criminalizes dissent to the point where they can do whatever they want. And when it comes to so-called suspected terrorists, the president has arrogated to himself and those that carry out his orders pretty much the unlimited ability to kidnap somebody off the street without a warrant, to skirt them away to an undisclosed location. They can be stripped of their United States citizenship. They can be tortured. They can be held incommunicado and given a secret trial without a jury. It's called the Military Commissions Act. And even though it was repealed, the worst provisions were repealed in 2007, Mr. Bush signed one of those infamous signing statements, basically saying, I can ignore this little repealing. So basically he's saying he's just going to roll with the Military Commissions Act of 2006. And one of the interesting things about that little bill, and it kind of goes back to the symbolism of a lot of what goes on with the expansion of globalism that we see happening, is the dates that are selected for this. The Military Commissions Act was passed on the anniversary of Ulysses S. Grant doing the very same thing in 1871. And of course, the Posse Comitatus Act, was intended to address those issues. Well, the Military Commissions Act and the John Warner Defense Authorization Act purports to do away with these protections. So in that way, there's really nothing to stop you from becoming an enemy of the state and being subjected to the full force and power of the government, even if they merely suspect you. No proof, no probable cause even, and that's always been a baseline litmus test for law enforcement. So, okay, and here we go. Banksters and their minions understand this full well, and that is why they are installing their control grid at a record pace, systematically passing draconian legislation such as the Patriot Act Presidential Decision Directive 51, the Military Commissions Act, and soon enough, the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act. It's also known as Senate Bill 1959. Google that and study it very carefully because it really does criminalize many forms of dissent. In fact, my just being here and talking about these issues is a terrorist act. So I suppose I'll probably have to sleep with one eye open from now on because I'll never know when I might get my front door kicked in, my dog shot. You know, they always shoot the dogs first, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the worst thing you can do to a redneck, to shoot his dog. God, show me some mercy. But anyhow, it is no mistake a combat brigade, fresh from Iraq, and this is an editorial, so he kind of uses a little hyperbole here. He's talking about the 1st Brigade combat team of the 3rd Infantry Division. Highly skilled, highly experienced combat veterans. They are being trained under NORTHCOM. NORTHCOM is the military end of Homeland Security. Now, I've been following NORTHCOM since 1999 and warned a number of patriots all over the country about the emergence of Homeland Security a full year before 9/11. I said there will be a major event in the next 48 months. Well, actually, I was speculating it would be even as little as 24 months. And there would be a major incident, and then they would roll this out. And everybody said, you're just a conspiracy theorist. We hear that thrown out a lot lately. When somebody says something that happens to be an inconvenient truth, they're accused of being a conspiracy theorist. And then, of course, you wait about 5-10 years, and it turns out that they were right all along. But at that point, it's too late. It's already a done deal. But, I didn't save this onto my thumb drive here, so I'm just gonna have to step over here where I got a little light. I'll just read this for you. This was from yesterday. Uses for $700 billion bailout money ever shifting. This is an Associated Press article. Everything that's going on is in fact reported in the mainstream media. But when patriotic Americans try to warn others about it, like I said, they're accused of being conspiracy theorists. Well, you must be one of those right-wing militia wacko jobs. The funny thing is that I seem to recall a lot of the stuff that them Michigan militia guys were talking about back in the 90s. They were spot on. And why not? A lot of these guys were prior military, law enforcement, and they know how to collect intel. They know how to read the sign on the wall before it hits you in the face. Okay, first, the $700 billion rescue for the economy was about buying devalued mortgage-backed securities from towering banks to unclog frozen credit markets. Then it was about using an additional $250 billion to buy stakes in banks. Has your bank been bought by the federal government? I know mine has, and my bank is National City. There are a lot of other banks that are being bought up. Reports surfaced that bankers might instead use the money to buy other banks, pay dividends, give employees a raise, and executives a bonus. We've heard a lot lately about these bailouts going directly to, $400,000 getaways, for executives, golden parachutes, and so forth. Insurance companies now want a slice. They're also tied to the financial market. Money, please. We want our handout, too. The automakers, they've gotten their handouts already, and that was about $25 billion for the Detroit Big Three. And that may extend even to some of the other automakers like Toyota and so forth. They're doing pretty good, but hey, when there's free money to be had, why not ask for some? They're giving it away like candy. 3 weeks after becoming law, with the first dollar of the $700 billion yet to go out, and in fact it has gone out already, Because again, it's all just ones and zeros in computers. You know, all they have to do is push a button and off it goes.